Hello, I'm so excited to be able to run a workshop today based on messaging from my chapter in Authenticity in Action, which features powerful stories of people living their most authentic life. My name is Dr. Daniella Camer, and I'm a leading senior medical writer, creative director, and multi-award winning children's picture book author. I tragically lost my husband Clint to cancer in 2023, leaving me a widow at just 35 years old and solo parent to our then 6-year-old daughter, Sophie. Every day, I am driven to live life authentically and to the full. My chapter, Be a Yes Person with Boundaries, shares my journey from being a people pleaser with no boundaries to embracing my self-worth and balance. A near fatal car accident forced me to reevaluate my priorities, shifting from overwork and undervaluation to setting firm boundaries in my career and personal life. Facing workplace discrimination, chronic illness, and self doubt, I eventually built a fulfilling freelance medical writing career and found unexpected joy in writing award winning children's picture books. Through resilience and self discovery, I've learned to say yes on my own terms. My story is a reminder to recognize red flags, value yourself, and pursue what truly matters. Today, I'm going to be talking about tips on how to be a yes person with boundaries. But before I begin, I want to give you a little bit of a backstory first. I was a yes person without boundaries. Yes, I will do more work for no extra pay. Yes, I will stay up late after my baby goes to sleep so that I can get that project to you ASAP, even though I'm exhausted. Yes, I'll work through lunch to meet your arbitrary deadline. My perspective changed after a serious car accident that almost claimed my life. I made the switch to be a yes person with boundaries. Hopefully, this session will enable you to reflect on your own decisions and think about if you are setting enough boundaries in your professional or personal life. If you're committed to being a yes person with boundaries, I'm going to share some tips to help you along your way. My first tip is to spot the red flags. Is someone making you feel undervalued in any part of your life? Trust your gut. If something doesn't seem right, it most likely isn't. What I want you to do is have a think about the red flags that might be creeping into your life. Think about your top 3 that come to mind. It could be a person, a pain point in your business, an environment, or something as simple as you've slowly been developing increased chocolate eating habit since Easter that you just want to curb a little bit. Have a think about what your top 3 are. And then I want you to rank these 3 red flags in order of severity. Once you've written these down and placed them in order of severity, I want you to brainstorm ways that you can overcome these red flags. Once you've come up with these solutions, then it's about taking action. What I want you to then do is make a commitment to take action to get rid of these red flags. In my chapter in Authenticity in Action, I talk about my red flag mainly being a toxic work environment and what I had to do to remove myself from that environment and stay true to my own values. One thing I've put here is a little qualifier on this tip. Spot the red flags, and the qualifier is again and again. And the reason for that is sometimes you might have got rid of a red flag. You might have spotted it, overcome it, taken action to get rid of it. But then you might have another red flag that creeps in. And what you don't want to happen is for that to engulf your life again. So it's okay, mistakes happen. We just need to keep an eye out for these red flags and act quickly to get rid of them. Now, before I go on to our next tip, I just want to give you a little bit of a trigger warning because it does feature a picture from a real life motor vehicle accident. So if you find this kind of imagery triggering, I just advise you to look away just for this slide, and I'll let you know when we've moved on. So my next tip, and I think this is the one that's probably the most important to me, is to live your life. Do what you want to do now. You never know what is around the corner. As we all know, our lives are precious. It starts in an instant. It can change in an instant. It can end in an instant. What's important that we live our life as much as we can and as authentically as we can. This really came to light for me on the 14th of April 2018. I was out on a girls' trip with three of my best friends to a winery at the South Coast. And we were visiting wineries. We we're going on a little bit of a wine tour. And we got to our second destination and we were waiting to turn in and we didn't make it because we were involved in a multi-vehicle accident. And this is an image of the car I was traveling in. As you can see, it's quite crumpled at the back, and you're probably wondering how a person was sitting in the back seat. But that's where I was, in that crumpled bit. And as a result of that accident, I actually had a serious injury. I had dissected the left vertebral artery in my neck. So, and I was told that if I had 1 millimeter more of damage, I would have died instantly. Again, life can change in an instant. I'm lucky to be alive. And it's important for me that I live my life to the full. And I want to inspire others to have that mentality as well, to live life to the full. And one thing I want you to do today is I want you to write the 5 top things you really want to do in life. So a bucket list. And I want you all to write dates, deadlines for yourself when you are going to achieve these. And I, like you would do if you have your own business and you're making business plans, I want you to make plans to achieve everything on your bucket list. My next tip is that there is always hope. Find the one positive in a million negatives. Now, following my car accident, I developed PTSD. I had to have a lot of therapy with a psychologist to be able to deal with the symptoms as a result of having PTSD. And one thing that was important to me was being able to go to the winery that I never visited that day for some exposure therapy. So with my husband and daughter, we did just that. We went up to the winery. We never made that day. And I was fortunate. I did make it there. And I was fortunate to speak with the owner. And he actually shared some of his own trauma with me. When he used to work in New York City, and he tragically lost staff in the 9/11 terrorist attacks in the Twin Towers building. And he shared that this was the catalyst for him to move to Australia and run a winery with his family. And it gave me a little bit of perspective that even though I was early on in my own trauma, that things would be okay. And that's where there is always hope comes in. Find the one positive in a million negatives. And I think this has grounded me in my life whenever I've gone through tragic experiences, and I've been through a lot, that if I can pull out something positive to focus on and to remind myself that everything will be okay. So, in your own life, I want you to think about one positive. You only have to think of one, just one positive thing, and really focus on that positive in helping you move with your life. My next tip: you are worthy. Enjoy your gifts and wins. Embrace opportunities. Now, I know a lot of you may have experienced or may experience imposter syndrome, something that I've always struggled with. And I have to remind myself sometimes you are worthy. And one thing again that brought this to light was after being in several toxic work environments, I felt undervalued and I didn't feel worthy. And after leaving a toxic work, my second toxic work environment that I mentioned in my chapter, I went on a family trip to the UK with my husband and daughter. And this is her at 2 years old. And we decided to stay in the Savoy in London. And when we got to check in, we were told that we had been upgraded to one of their most luxurious suites, known as the personality suite. And my first thought was, oh, I'm not worthy of this. This isn't for me. But one thing I did notice was that when we went into the room, my daughter at 2 went straight for the fruit bowl that was there, this enticing fruit bowl, grabbed a strawberry and devoured it. And I just thought that confidence that she had. She knew it was in our room, so it was for us. But sometimes we can get hesitant about taking things that we've earned or we're worthy of. And Sophie had this confidence, and it's very inspiring. I think we can learn a lot from kids in their boldness sometimes. And she rightfully got the strawberry that she was given. So I want you to remind yourself whenever you're having those feelings of self-doubt, that you are worthy. Enjoy your gifts and wins. Embrace opportunities. If you win an award, you've earned the reward and award. You've earned it. Now, the next tip is to find your dream workplace. The grass is greener on the other side. So this image here, I was having a little play with AI, and I asked AI what its dream workplace is, and it thought lots of chairs and tables with lots of wheels. That might be for some, not for me though. My dream workplace is somewhere where you're valued, where you're appreciated, and where you are offered flexibility if needed and accommodations. They're just some of the values that I would say are in a dream workplace. What I want you to do is to list your top 5 values that you would find in a dream workplace. And then once you've written those 5, are these reflected in your workplace? If not, what can you do to help achieve those values in your workplace? And if you can't, what do you need to do instead? Is there another workplace that will be better for you? Is there something else you need to do to your business to make it a dream workplace? Identifying these values and potential issues will help you find your dream workplace. My last tip is, are you inspired to do something else? Find a way to make it happen. So, having starting my own freelance medical writing business in 2019 gave me this flexibility to be able to pursue other avenues in my life. I was able to have more work-life balance. I've been able to have more time with family, with friends. But then I've also been able to pursue hobbies and then turn them into businesses. So one of which is becoming a children's picture book author. And that inspiration came from my daughter, Sophie. I was inspired to write my first picture book, Sophie Won't Sleep. And it's about a cheeky little sloth who doesn't want to go to bed. And I published this in 2021. And since its publication, it's achieved global success, being awarded over 10 prestigious international picture book awards, and even featuring on a billboard in Times Square, New York City. And this is where this picture is from. And being in medical advertising, my dream before would have been to get one of my clients on a billboard in Times Square, New York City, not my own. So it was a really interesting shift, being able to do something for me based on my own passion. So I want you to have a think about, is there something that you haven't been able to do because you feel too busy? I want you to find a way to make it happen. I want you to achieve your dreams. I want you to achieve your goals. But I want you to write it down so you can keep that at the back of your mind as a goal that you want to achieve. So from my journey, it hasn't always been an easy experience in becoming a yes person with boundaries. But I hope these tips from the workshop have been helpful. And here are my contact details if you would like to connect with me. But before I go and before I finish up, I have one final message for you. I want you to grab opportunities with open arms, but only if they align with your values. Live life to the full, but within your comfort levels. Don't let anyone make you be anyone else but you. Thank you very much.